welcome back to Innovate Africa. Always great being with you. As you know, education's a big thing in my life, especially the role that it plays in molding the future. I've also said this before, our current education system, 150 years old and more, is very much focused on academics, which is fine if you want to be an engineer or a doctor. But what if you're creatively inclined? I think we need to add more of that to our education system. So you can imagine the happiness in my heart when I met Robert Stephenson. He is an entertainment entrepreneur from Dublin in Ireland, and he launched a program called Blast Beat. And that has made a difference in a lot of young people's lives, not only in Ireland itself, but globally. And he's now brought it to South Africa. Robert Stephenson, what a pleasure having you on the show. But
My pleasure.
Fun fact first.
Yeah.
You've been accredited with
helping U2 at the start.
Yes, helping U2 at the start.
Yeah.
I love a man who knows the answer to the question before it's even asked.
Yeah, well, I read your mind, you see. You get to my age, you get good at it.
I love it. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, well, essentially, I put them on the gig in London where they got signed out of. That's it in one sentence. And that just happened because I was doing a degree in psychology in Trinity College Dublin. Kander Asmal, actually, who was an education minister here, was my tutor at the time. And then I was roped into raising money for an Sense of Ireland festival in London in 1980. And so basically, I got the sponsorship, brought the U2 over, put them in the hotel, and that's the gig they got signed out of. So that was my claim to fame. And then that's when I met them, looked after them. And then, you know, from there, I had a relationship that was a friendly relationship with Bono, went to his wedding and used to come down and stay with me in the west of Ireland. And I just thought, you know, there's nothing that Paul McGuinness can't do that I can't do, right? So it was that, like, I love music, you know, and I could see how they were beginning to have success. And I was always passionate about music. So I decided I'd get involved in the music business. So I did. And that the rest, again, is history. Within a few months, I'd found a band. The next thing, I had them signed in London. The next thing, I moved to London. And the rest is history.
Now, the history might be history, but another part of your history, which is a very important one, is a program called Blast Beat.
Yeah.
Now, this really helped deliver loads of entrepreneurs over the years in the United States, in Ireland. Let's talk about that. Africa as well. Yeah.
Actually, I had a phone call from one of those kids who's now in his probably mid-30s, Sibu. And he was saying to me, like, and he said he'd actually do it on film. I can put it out in the next few weeks, how much of a difference it made to his life, because he was in one of the premier schools in Cape Town, in Sax, actually. And I think it's the oldest school in South Africa. He was in that. It was only he was a Zulu. There was only 5 black kids in the school at that time in his year group. And he wasn't good particularly at sports or anything else, but he made his name through Blast Beat. You know, he got the recognition of the authorities within the school because he became the CEO at 16 or 17. And I mentored him for a while after that. And he was telling me in a call the other day that it actually totally changed his whole life because he was able to prove himself through Blast Beat and putting on an events program and organizing that well in the school and having the courage to knock on the headmaster's door and say, can we use the assembly hall for a rock and roll gig? You know, he said that actually changed his whole life because from there he got the recognition and then he became a prefect. He was in, you know, which is a very important thing, which engaged the school and even parents and so on. You don't become a prefect easily in Sax or Rondebosch or Bishops or any of these schools. You know, so then from there, he went to get the Alan Gray, and then that led to a scholarship with Alan Gray. And then from there, he got a job in a big consultancy firm, and now he's an investor himself. He just was telling me he's just invest many millions of rand in a business last week in Joburg, and he said, you know, I don't want to get teary about this, but he said, you changed my life. And when I hear that, it just gives goose pimples. You know, I just get a shiver up my spine and hair stands out a bit. And I say, wow, I did something good. So that's really what's happening. But now the point with Blast Beat, and I should explain the program to you quickly, is it's about scaling it. You know, I started this idea in 2003. inspirational moment. By 2006, I was down here, and I always wanted to come to Cape Town. And Cadarasmal was a bit of an influence there, as were other people. And then when I got down here, I started the program, and but the problem was Mr. Price were the sponsors at the time.
Right.
We never charged the school or the students or the parents. It was Coca-Cola in Ireland. It was Mr. Price in South Africa. And it was a great program, but it was expensive to implement because you literally had to physically go into the schools. Back then, we didn't have the connectivity we had now. The Wi-Fi wasn't there. We didn't have smartphones. AI wasn't even thought about, et cetera, right? So, but now I've realized that my whole concept then was great, but it was maybe 22 years early.
Right.
But now we can scale because we have, I'm in the process of building an app called the Blastbeat V2 version 2 app.
I want to get to V2 and the scaling,
Mm.
but I don't want to get there right now.
Okay.
I want to talk more about the principles behind the program,
Okay.
how you actually, and the processes really that led to, you were just talking about this young gentleman
Mm.
who took up the courage to go to the principal and say, hey, we need the hall, right?
Mm.
So all of this needs to be underpinned by a couple of principles that you teach,
Mm.
a program that maybe runs for 2, 3, 4 months, however long, that has outputs. So tell us more about Blastbeat itself
Okay. Well,
before actually talking about scaling what Blastbeat actually is.
Sure. Well, essentially, it's an enterprise game. It's showing kids how to set up and run their own little business, and like a mini company, if you want to call it that. And so they set up and run an events business in their school or in their sports club, because I also worked with West Ham and with Arsenal, and I'm brought into their academy students. So it's not just music; it's any event. It can be music, sport, fashion, you name it. Surfing. It doesn't matter. It's an event, right? So the kids learn how to do that. Kids, I mean that in a nice sense of young people in schools. They set up their own mini company, choose their own jobs, and then there's 14 jobs. There's 4 departments. There's the business department, the creative department, the social events department, and there's the giving back to the community bit, the corporate social responsibility bit. Right. So you put that together. They put on an event over 3 months. They have to start. I don't go into a school and say, hey, I'm here to teach you about business, because I'd lose them straight away. Just go in and say, who likes music? Who likes sport? Who wants to make some money? Bang, you got their attention. So then within an hour, they've started their own company. They're arguing about the name of the company. Great. And then over the course of 3 months, they put on the event, they sell the tickets, they make the money, they do all the jobs, and they get a huge return on their self-confidence and even ideas around career paths. And I'm particularly interested in the kids from underserved communities. So when I did this started this back here in 2006, it wasn't just Bishops and Sachs and Rondebosch. It was actually Mannenberg, Kailicha, Samora Machel, etc. And actually the winning team came from South Africa. We had the World Championships in Dublin. Right. And I brought a Springboks team from here, which was kids from all 8 of the schools I was working with from both sides, and different languages, English, Afrikaans, everything. Went to Ireland, they won it. Because there's certain thing about South Africans I've noticed, in rugby too, is that there's a resilience and a grit that South Africans have, that Irish have in many ways. A lot of other kids don't, right? So I think there's a great opportunity for South African kids to evolve in using a simple business plan to realize they can actually set up and run their own little company, be entrepreneurs, rather than waiting for some supermarket chain to give them a job stacking shelves. That's not a future for these kids. And there's a lot of creativity in the townships that I'm in the music industry. I've got a record label here. I'm working with Amapiano, with Gom, with the 3-step artists, and I see the creativity in music and in dance and in everything else, in art, in fashion. And I said, that is a career choice for these kids coming from the townships or rural communities who don't have a chance unless they have a way of getting out of that environment. And Blastbeat, coupled with the use of AI and modern technology that's there, is a way out for them, out of the poverty they live in. That's my mission.
I also think an important part of teaching young people is that before you talk about the AI, before you
Mm,
touch the AI, before you even dream up which technologies you need to use,
mm,
it's about what humans need in the first place. And to your point, when you walked in and you said, "Who wants to make money?
mm,
Who likes music?"
mm,
etc., etc., you got their attention because there was emotional engagement.
mm,
So I find this to be very missing in our schools. We've got
mm,
this crime against humanity, which is known as EMS, which I think does very little,
mm,
right? And I remember us building Innovation City, and the person who helped us decorate the space said to me, my kid learnt about this, this, and this in life orientation. But if we could just teach them not to be a-holes,
mm,
right?
mm,
The world would be a better place. As a result, we have a policy at Innovation City, for example, which is a no a-hole policy.
mm,
We don't swear on the show, but I mean,
mm,
just
mm.
to demonstrate.
I get
So
you.
how important is that human connection?
It's
Oh,
critical, it's
yeah,
fundamental, and something I haven't mentioned is really that it's all about being good citizens, right? But you can't be a good citizen if you don't have a job and you're living in a shack in the middle of nowhere, and whatever. That's no recipe. So, um, the important part is at the end of doing their events and running their business, 25% of the profit has to go back towards something around climate action, because that's the existential problem that I'm also trying to solve. Okay. So um, the kids then decide what they want. Is it they're going to start a food garden in the school? Are they going to plant trees? Are they going to actually start some food garden back in their township? You're growing food vertically, aquaponics, etc., which is another program we have. So there is more, by the way. And let me quickly say this: I'm impact investor. I came here with some money and a lot of good ideas. So Blastbeat is just one of several enterprises I've invested in. I've found young people, met them socially or whatever way, be it football, surfing, aquaponics, education, schools, a range of things. And when I meet the passion that I have and I see the spark in somebody, and most of those kids are also from very poor backgrounds and they're making good. And that really is the biggest reward I can get,
yeah.
is the type of conversation I had with Cebu, the type of seeing kids changing in front of your eyes, seeing young people empowered and starting their own businesses and being successful. That's all I want to do for the rest of my life. So getting back to your question
Yeah.
is, moving forward is civic society is what we live in. Otherwise, you know, which French philosopher said, we're only 3 meals away from anarchy, right? So if people can't eat and they can't look after themselves, there's going to be anarchy. Bringing social impact into schools and having young people understand that they can make a difference and they can give back, and this is how they do it, while as well looking after themselves and their families, is essential to the success of any country, any society. If we get that wrong, we're finished. So it's embodied into it is there's an end result. Not only do we get these young, confident social entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
we got people who actually care about their environment. Because at the end of the day, if we don't get that right,
Yeah.
there ain't no future.
Very true indeed. And I just wish more corporate CSI departments would spend less money painting walls and doing innocuous stuff that really doesn't make a difference, and would rather support programs such as a blast beat, for example. There are many others out there,
Mm.
but a blast beat that actually delivers potential customers for the future.
100%. And now,
Because what are you selling into? You're selling into,
well,
yeah,
exactly, yeah, exactly. So if the place is burning down from either climate or civil
yeah,
upset, there ain't no future for any of the corporations. Now, the good thing about Blastbeat is always it's a very attractive for sponsors. We've had a range of sponsors, different countries, as I said, including Barclays in the UK, Barclays Bank, etc., Adad Irish Bank, a whole range. So it's in their interests to engage with the young people, number one, or else they won't have a product in the future. Two, it's in their interest to find new talent. So the other thing about Blastbeat is a great talent funnel.
yeah.
So we discover the raw talent and then we help it. And then we encourage and help get, as Sibu said, it got him the Alan Gray. It got him, so there's a pathway that we can create. And sponsors we need them to be involved for their own success, for their own future. And there's never a reluctance with good sponsors to be involved in this. And so now I'm relaunching Blast Beat because it's not been going here for a number of years because of the cost, and I was busy elsewhere. But now I'm here, living here, passionate about South Africa. I still support Ireland rugby, by the way, but otherwise I'm 100% South
We
Africa.
all have our faults.
We have our
No,
faults.
indeed.
There you go. But anyway, having said that, look, it's about the future, and our future lies with the children and the young people in the schools. And I'm very positive because I see the brilliance is there, but I'm uh, angry even that it's not given an opportunity. So I would ask people to think about it, and if they want to get involved, to maybe give you a shout. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Listen, I sit on the board of Business Ireland, so from a rugby perspective, if South Africa is not playing, then Ireland is my international team.
I have the same.
And yeah, well, this is a good quid pro quo, I think.
All right.
So what about the rest of the continent, right? So you fell in love with South Africa. Kada Asmal was one of your lecturers. You were in Trinity College. I know, and you didn't mention this, but you even collected stamps about South Africa and Africa.
Yeah.
So you've got this affinity. How much of this is actually going to move outside of South Africa and onto the rest of the continent? Are you already having those conversations?
I am actually, quite funnily. I was in Namibia last week and dealing with meeting some really professional people from the government there. And the president of Namibia, who was recently elected last year, she's got a great vision about bringing arts and culture back in a big way. And she realizes the importance of that. And then there's also an Irish guy who was very important in the founding of Namibia. So I actually think that with Namibia, we'd have it going there across the country. Uganda and Rwanda are two other countries. I've got a coffee business in Uganda. And then, of course, I've got a music business there, signed a Ugandan artist who's now working with South African beat makers doing amapiano. And I've got some Irish fiddle players on it. And we've got Rwandan dancers on it. So you're bringing Africa together with Ireland, which is part of my dream, of course, is the better connections between Ireland and South Africa, because we have a shared colonial history. There's a lot of understanding in Ireland about the suffering of Africa and the exploitation of Africa that the colonial powers still actually exercise here. So I think that there's a movement from Ireland to do more in Africa. There's a very good relationship with the South African and Irish governments these days. You know, the Irish government was invited to the G20 by South Africa, because of our work together around the Gaza situation and many other things that have happened. So I think that it's the dawn of a huge potential for empowering young people in Africa generally. So we just are going to pilot testing it all now with the new app in Cape Town. And then from there, we expand out. South Africa first, Namibia, Rwanda, Uganda. And once you get that going, it'll just go across the whole continent.
And it's not possible to scale using the analog approach because it's very expensive. It takes human capital. Human capital does this. It's inflationary by nature. While you're trying to create jobs, you want to create sustainable jobs. And if you're not creating sustainable
jobs. Started with Blast Beat because it wasn't really sustainable in the old analog model unless you had millions of dollars, which I did raise millions and got it going in 4 continents and cities everywhere, but it wasn't sustainable. So I learned that lesson at an early stage. Now the costs are reduced by a huge factor by the advent of the app. And that makes it scalable. There's no reason why we can't have this in 50,000 schools across Africa in the next 5 years. Can you imagine the impact that's going to have?
Put a big smile on my face.
There you go.
It's
entirely possible.
Phenomenal. And I would encourage businesses who want to be part of this particular journey, other organizations. I'll do a wrap up pretty soon and I'll tell you how you can get hold of Robert. But I do think it's important for all of us to work together to secure this future that we keep talking about. And I know you probably a CEO, a CIO, you're sitting in the C-suite, you're a decision maker in business, or you run your own startup and you're doing pretty well. Maybe you're a scale up. You're the type of person that Blast Beat's actually looking for. So in closing, what do you think about the potential of Africa. Very short. We've run out of time, so you're an Irishman, I know, but I'm going to limit you to under a minute. So if I talk to you about Africa and its potential, what would you say?
Well, I think it's the biggest potential in the world, on the globe right now. It's got the ability to feed the world. It's got the intellectual ability now, with the kids given a chance that they can actually create the future. I think Africa is a fantastic continent that's underdeveloped. It's got its problems, but then hopefully we collectively, the people that might be watching this, can find good solutions to. I'm a solutions architect. You throw me a problem, I'll give you a solution within a second. That's the way it is. There's the people watching this will be similar. The great people, good minds.
Right.
So if we work together, it's about bringing people together. Blastbeat's about bringing people together to change not only Africa but the world for the better, and so that we can actually breathe in the future. That we have a planet we can live on, because that's the existential issue, isn't it?
The big, hairy, audacious goal, as
There
they
you go.
say.
Well, it's doable if we
Yep.
do it, but we need the young people to do it, because old people don't change their ways too easily. Young people do.
Robert Stephenson, I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And once again, thank you for tuning into Innovate Africa. And you'll find my email address over there. I never know which side it's going to appear on, probably that one or that one. But reach out to me. I'll connect you to Robert, and I'd like to see us build this future together. And somehow we need to bring broadcasting and media into that as well. But I'll see you on Innovate Africa next week.